Good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Helen Marley, and I'm in the middle of the tutorial of the all-in-one approach to succeeding at the piano, book 1A. Here we are on page 17, A above guide note G, smoke signals on the bluff. The A is a step up from treble G, and treble G is a very important G because it's guide note G. So we want to make sure our students understand that the A is just a step up from G. The practice steps: circle the A's in the right hand. Oh my goodness, there's one in measure 2, measure 3. There's also 2 in the second line as well. Tap hands together and count out loud. You know me, we always want our students to internalize the rhythm before they play any piece. So let's make sure that they are comfortable with the rhythm. So you could have the students tap hands together like this: 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. What do you think will cause a student some challenge? It's that first dotted half note in the left hand. Some students will wait to actually tap the second and third beats, or they won't think about when they have to come off of the left hand, right? So we need to ask them, where does your left hand come off? Oh, it comes off on beat 1 of the second measure. And what beat is the very first note of the right hand? Oh, that's on beat 2. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, oh. All right, and then plan the dynamics before you begin. So from now on, seconds are the new name for steps, and thirds are definitely the new name for skips. And if you've already used seconds and thirds before in your teaching, that's totally fine. So the musicality girl asked, was the counting correct and was the melody legato? So why don't we use these for good questions before the student plays the piece? So we could say something like, what are you going to be listening for when you play this piece? And the student might say, the rhythm. Oh, good. And we're going to really count it out loud, aren't we? Oh, yes. And the other question you could ask is, do you think that the melody is detached or is it connected? Oh, it's connected. Do you remember the name for the sound when it's connected? Well, I can't remember the name, but it's because that big slur is over there. Yes, absolutely. Can you remember it? It's an Italian word. It begins with an L. Oh yeah, legato. Oh my gosh. What did you do? I held on to my left hand too long. Okay, let's go a little bit slower so that you have a really good thinking tempo. 1, 2. And then you can reiterate those same questions. Page 18 is a wonderful theory page, just reviewing the notes that the students know. And the new note is the A above guide note G. White Swan at Sunset is on page 19, a really beautiful piece by Mary Leaf. That's a great place for a tissue box touch release. Students don't learn this particular physical touch release until the next level of the all-in-one. But if you're using the second edition of Succeeding at the Piano, they learn it in a preparatory level. So the tissue box touch release, we want to teach our students a new sound, something that's so ethereal, quiet, beautiful. And the way they do it is they imagine that they're dropping, and then they are pulling a tissue from a tissue box. So the wrist has to go up first, and then the arm follows. And it's a very slow release off of the keys. So I'll do that one more time at the very end. 1, 2. Oh, how beautiful. And then you and the student does the tissue box, then puts your hands in your laps. So professional. Here is page 20, Unit 6, staccato. When I teach staccato, I always teach my students the idea of an image of a woodpecker pecking a tree. And the head just goes tick, 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 right? And the head isn't flopping all over the place, so we don't want to have floppy, loose wrists when students are playing staccato, but we want the student to play close to the keys, and we also want the wrist to stay in line with the forearm. Right, so the student has to play even closer to the keys. So those are little woodpeckers. If the sound was meant to be mezzo forte, they could think of bigger sized woodpeckers. And if they were forte, oh my goodness, if this piece was forte, I think I'm going to scratch that. Page 20. Of the all-in-one approach to succeeding at the piano, book 1A. Here the students are learning in Unit 6, staccato. And staccato is a great touch release. And I liken it to a woodpecker who pecks a tree. And so when the student is pretending that their hand, their whole playing apparatus, their hand, their wrist, their forearm is a woodpecker pecking a tree, then they will get the idea that the wrist and the forearm move at the same time in the same direction. So we don't want to have really floppy and loose wrists when students are playing staccato, because it will only slow them down and they won't be able to play the notes correctly. So let's have them start close to the keys, like that. And it's perfect for a piano sound, right? If students were asked to play mezzo forte, then they would think about bigger woodpeckers. And if the sound was meant to be forte, then they could think of those really big woodpeckers. Let's see. So we don't want to tell our students that the piano is hot and we have to get off the keys, because all that does is constrict their muscles and makes them uncomfortable and tight. Right? So everything about succeeding at the piano and the way we teach our students is all about healthy, natural technique from the very beginning. So that is staccato. The next page is called The Scared Rooster, and students just love this little piece. So many staccato notes in it, and I think they really like the words to it. There's a rooster on our farm. He sends nature from afar. He cried cock-a-doodle-doo and jumped right in our car. Honk, 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 honk. With a staccato at the end. So here we go. So the very last one, you could have students feel like they're pushing off the keyboard instead, so that they have a really big sound. And all these honks, what are they? They really are just a good dropping motion and rolling forcefully off the keyboard. There's a time to compose activity. Make up a piece using thirds and staccatos. The next page, page 22, is a wonderful theory page. More review with note names, but also articulations. with the legato and the staccato markings. Now let's turn to page 23 of the All-in-One Approach to Succeeding at the Piano, Book 1A. This piece, called The Haunted House, is such a favorite of students. Oh my goodness. The tempo marking by Mary Leaf says, cautiously. The practice step at the top says, which line is the most different from the other three? Well, it's definitely the third line. So then I say, practice it more, at least 5 times a day. So we want to make sure that we tell our students that practice does not make perfect. What makes something perfect is how well we practice, right? How do we practice correctly? So the student can definitely use a unit practice strategy here, which is 1 measure plus 1 downbeat. I'm going to start on measure 9. The student goes over the bar line, which is really important for their eyes to move forward, and they only have to work with 5 beats. So the student will remember these patterns much more simply than if they were playing the entire line or the entire piece. So have them do that 5 times in a row. If they play anything incorrectly, whether the physical motion of the touch release isn't very good, right? If that's not so good, then I wouldn't count it as a positive repetition. If they have the fingering screwed up, I wouldn't call it a positive repetition. If they don't have a good sound, I wouldn't as well. But the moment the student plays this, with a beautiful touch release, with a mezzo forte sound and good tempo, good fingering, then I'd say, okay, you did it once beautifully. Now let's play it 5 times in a row. So then the student understands what correct practice is. And this is the way that the students are successful at playing the piano. So this lovely piece goes like this. Don't you love that last note? What a surprise! Yikes! What's going to happen when we pass that haunted house? Do you notice that very, very last note? Do you know what? Oh my goodness, it's not that note, is it? I'm supposed to play this note. Or I should say that key, right? Notes are on the page and the keys are on the keyboard. Oh my gosh, so let's see how even more exciting this piece ends with the playing of the last A on the keys. I should say with playing the last A on the keyboard. Whoa, that is really fun, isn't it? Oh my gosh. So how do we get students to play that jump and that last note, the last key, without moving physically on the bench like this, right? So remember that practice strategy from a while ago, play prepared. So have them think about having to move. So you say, ready, look. They have to look way down there at that low, low A. And then we say, move, and they move to the low A. We're going to have to do that several times for the student to get really comfortable with it. You can ask the student, how comfortable are you? Oh, I'm really comfortable. I could do it. I could do it. Like that. 3, 4, 1, 2. So it's better if they count out loud so it's really accurate.